Your sister slides an envelope across the table. Take it, she says. Don't tell Mark I gave it to you. Inside is $600. She thinks you're struggling. Your coworkers call your car the beater. Your mother still asks, gently, if you're doing okay. None of them know you're worth $1.4 million. You could end the misunderstanding with one screenshot. You never do. This isn't really a story about money. It's a story about a decision most people never think to make. Not the decision to get rich, but the decision to stay quiet about it. And somewhere in the next 18 minutes, you're going to understand exactly why that second decision might matter more than the first. It starts 14 years ago with a bonus check, a leather jacket, and a lie you told for the first time without even realizing it was one. Looking back, becoming wealthy wasn't the hardest part. Staying quiet about it was. Age 23, the first lie. You get your first real bonus, $800, direct deposit, a Tuesday. Your coworker Danielle gets the same bonus and buys a leather jacket she's been eyeing for months. She shows it off the next morning. Everyone tells her it's gorgeous. You mean it when you say the same thing. Someone asks what you're doing with yours. Probably nothing exciting, you say. That's the lie. Not a big one, barely a lie at all, but it's the first time you choose not to explain yourself. And something about saying it out loud feels strangely good, like trying on a coat that fits better than you expected. What you actually do is open a brokerage account and put the $800 into a low-cost index fund. You don't tell Danielle. You don't tell your roommate. There's no dramatic reason. It just doesn't feel like anyone's business. And once you notice that feeling, you can't unnotice it. You set up an automatic transfer the same week, $400 a month, gone before you see it. Small enough that skipping a few takeout orders covers it. Boring enough that nobody would ever ask about it, which is exactly the point. Payday still disappears fast. Rent first, then the transfer, then whatever's left has to stretch across groceries where you compare unit prices out of habit now, not desperation. You still buy the store brand pasta. You still put things back at checkout sometimes when the total runs higher than you expected. None of that changes the week the automatic transfer starts. It just becomes one more line on a list that was already tight. Age 25, the friend who got rich fast. Then Jordan happens. You've known Jordan since college, and this year, Jordan turns $11,000 into $90,000 in 4 months trading a cryptocurrency you'd never heard of. He posts screenshots. He buys a truck in cash. He tells you, more than once, that index funds are for people who are okay with being average. For about 3 weeks, you almost believe him. You open the app and stare at his coins chart at midnight, doing math on what your $400 a month could have become if you'd just been braver. This is the part nobody warns you about. It isn't the discipline that gets tested first. It's the doubt that creeps in when someone reckless gets lucky in front of you. You don't put money in. Not because you're immune to the temptation, but because you already know what you don't know. And that's usually the moment right before people lose money fast. 8 months later, Jordan's coin is down 94%. The truck is still financed. He doesn't post about it. Nobody ever does. That same year, you have an Amazon cart sitting open for 3 days with a pair of noise-canceling headphones in it. $220. A want dressed up as a need. You close the tab on the 4th day without buying them. Nobody witnesses that decision. Nobody ever witnesses the ones that actually matter. Age 27, the layoff. Then the part nobody plans for happens. You lose your job on a Thursday, in a group video call, along with 40 other people, with 2 weeks of severance and a box for your desk stuff you never actually had at the desk. Panic doesn't feel like panic at first. It feels like doing math at 2 in the morning, over and over, the same numbers refusing to change no matter how many times you check them. You have 3 months of expenses saved separately from your investments, sitting untouched in a savings account you built specifically for a moment like this. You almost feel embarrassed by how boring that decision looks right now, sitting in your kitchen at 2 a.m. It is, at this exact moment, the most valuable decision you've ever made. You don't touch your portfolio. For the first time, you realize your investments weren't what gave you peace. The emergency fund did. The portfolio built your future. The cash protected your present. You don't have to. That's the entire reason the emergency fund existed in the first place. Sitting there for 3 years, doing nothing dramatic, waiting for a Thursday exactly like this one. It takes 11 weeks to find another job, at slightly less pay. Nobody at your new office ever hears the story. There's nothing to perform. You just show up on day one like it never happened. Age 29, the coworker who wasn't okay. Marcus, from the new job, leases a car that turns heads in the parking lot. Cream leather, a payment you'd guess runs $800 a month, maybe more. Everyone assumes Marcus is doing great. You assumed it too, until the day he asks to borrow $40 until Friday, and you realize he means it. You lend it to him without a word about the car, and he never brings it up again either. This is the moment something clicks that you can't fully explain to anyone. The car was never proof of anything. It was a monthly bill wearing a costume. That afternoon, you stop measuring wealth by what people drive. You start measuring it by how long they could live if their paycheck stopped tomorrow. You still drive the same car from 3 years ago. It runs. Nobody at this office has ever asked you for gas money. That same month, you start dating someone seriously for the first time in years. 3 months in, she asks why you don't seem to want more. A nicer apartment, nicer everything. You try to explain the plan, the automatic transfers, the account she's never seen the balance of. She hears, "I don't want to build a life with you," instead of what you actually meant. It ends in October. You spend a long time wondering if privacy about money is a strength or just a very well disguised wall. Age 30, the feed. Winter that year is quiet, and quiet has a way of turning into a phone screen at 11 at night. 2 friends post a beach in Portugal. A third posts a kitchen renovation with a marble island you'd genuinely love to have. Someone from college is living her best life in a caption under a rooftop pool you'll never swim in. You do the math anyway, the way you always do, converting their trip into months of your own contributions. And for about 10 minutes, you feel behind in a life you actually know, on paper, you are not behind in at all. It passes by morning. Social media had shown you everyone's celebrations. It had never shown you their credit card statements. It always does. But you remember, afterward, that discipline was never really about resisting a boat or a lease. It was about surviving a Tuesday night scroll that made your actual progress feel invisible, when nothing about it had changed at all. Age 31, the offer. Your mother invites you to dinner and slides an envelope across the table. Inside is $600, cash, folded twice. "I thought you weren't doing very well," she says, not unkindly. "I've been putting a little aside." You almost tell her. Your hand even reaches for your phone. Then it stops. 3 taps would answer every question she's been quietly carrying. You leave the phone in your pocket. You don't. You take the envelope because refusing it would hurt her more than accepting it, and you quietly transfer $600 into her own retirement account the following week without telling her that either. She never finds out where it came from. Some debts are better repaid in silence than in explanations. Your portfolio that year crosses $160,000. Nobody at that dinner table has any idea. Age 33, the promotion. You get promoted, a real one, a 40% raise, the kind of number that makes lifestyle upgrades feel not just possible, but earned. You almost lease something like Marcus's car, sitting in the dealership on a Saturday, running your finger along a dashboard that smells like a life you don't currently have. The monthly payment sits in a text box on the screen, blinking, waiting for you to say yes. You don't sign anything. Driving home, you wonder if you just made the biggest mistake of your life. 3 years later, you're grateful you did. Instead, you increase your monthly investing by the exact amount that raise added to your paycheck, so your day-to-day life doesn't shift by a single dollar. Your income changed, your spending didn't. That gap, quietly, is the entire mechanism behind everything that happens for the rest of this story. 3 months later, a real downturn hits the market. One of the sharp ones that leads every news segment for weeks, alongside headlines about layoffs at 3 different tech companies in a single week. You lie awake once that month running the same math you ran at 27, even though your job seems safe, even though nothing has actually happened yet. Worrying about a layoff that isn't happening turns out to be its own quiet tax, one nobody talks about because it doesn't show up on any account statement. Your account, sitting around $310,000 going in, loses nearly $70,000 of value in under 2 months. You keep the transfers running anyway, buying shares at a lower price than they were a season earlier, feeling sick every single time you do it. A year later, the market has fully recovered and moved past where it started. Nobody ever asks you about that either. One Saturday morning, your refrigerator stops working. Years earlier, that would have meant panic. Now it means a trip to the appliance store. No credit card, no payment plan, no argument with yourself. Just a problem, followed by a solution. You realize that's what wealth feels like most days. Not excitement, quiet. Age 36, the reunion. Your 10-year high school reunion happens in a rented hotel ballroom that smells faintly of the cafeteria you both remember and don't. Someone you barely spoke to back then looks at your car in the parking lot through the window and says, loud enough for 3 people to hear, "Guess some people just never figure it out." For a second, you consider telling him. Then you realize you don't actually need him to be wrong. You only need your plan to keep working. You laugh along. It's easier than the alternative. Later that night, a classmate who runs an ad agency talks for 20 minutes about a boat he financed and a house he's underwater on. Another mentions, quietly, over a second drink, that he's not sure he'll ever be able to retire. Everyone in that room has spent a decade being seen. You've spent a decade being underestimated. And for the first time, standing near the drink table, you understand those aren't opposites of failure and success. They're just 2 completely different games, and almost nobody in the room realizes they were even playing. You drive home in the beater. It starts on the first try. You sit in the parking lot for a minute before pulling out. Not sad exactly, just aware that you spent a decade being underestimated by people whose opinions you're realizing only now you stopped needing a long time ago. Age 42. The life you built. At a family dinner, your brother-in-law mentions refinancing the house to cover a car payment that's gotten away from him. Your sister, the one who once quietly offered you a loan, jokes that she still worries about you sometimes. You could end that worry in one sentence. You don't, and by now you understand exactly why. Keeping this private was never about deception. It was about never needing anyone's approval to feel like the decision was working. No one clapped when the balance crossed 100,000 or 600,000 or 7 figures, and that silence turned out to be the whole gift. Nobody's opinion could inflate it, and nobody's doubt could shrink it either. It simply grew on its own schedule, whether anyone was watching or not. Your portfolio has passed $1.4 million, built from index funds, automatic transfers, and 18 years of a gap between what you earned and what you spent that almost nobody around you ever noticed. If your paycheck disappeared tomorrow, your life wouldn't. Historically, US stock market index funds have returned somewhere around 8 to 10% annually before inflation over long periods, though returns vary wildly year to year, and nothing is ever guaranteed. What actually did the work was time, and the fact that you never let anyone's assumptions talk you out of showing up for it, month after month, including the months that felt pointless. You have no consumer debt, 6 months of expenses sitting untouched for emergencies, and a monthly reality where your investments now typically grow by more than your paycheck brings in. Nobody at this table would guess any of it, because for 18 years, you let them believe whatever the beater car told them. You spent years thinking secrecy was something you had to endure. Eventually, you realized it was something you got to keep. That was never a burden. It turned out to be the quietest freedom you've ever felt. The freedom of never performing wealth for people who were never actually going to remember the performance anyway. You think briefly about Jordan and his coin, about Marcus and his leased car, about the relationship that ended in October over a wall you built without meaning to. Secrecy cost you something real along the way. It cost you a few conversations that might have gone differently, a few moments where being known fully might have felt better than being underestimated quietly. You don't pretend otherwise. But it also meant nobody's opinion of your choices ever got a vote in whether you kept making them. And 18 years later, that trade still feels like the right one. The car needs a new alternator this week. You'll fix it. You could buy the dealership if you wanted to. You just don't need anyone at this table to know that. And for the first time tonight, you realize that not needing them to know is the actual definition of being free. Most people spend years trying to look wealthy. You spent yours becoming wealthy. One earns attention, the other earns freedom. If this story reminded you that the quietest financial decisions often change your life the most, subscribe. Every week, Kenny Finance explores the choices that quietly build lasting wealth.